The moving truck rumbled away, leaving Lena alone with the looming Victorian mansion. Its paint peeled like scabs, revealing the tired wood beneath. Shadows stretched from the overgrown garden, twisting and reaching towards the house as if eager to reclaim it. Lena shivered, a strange unease settling in her stomach despite the warmth of the summer afternoon. This was her new home, a fresh start in a town where nobody knew her name. Yet, as she turned the key in the rusted lock, a sense of foreboding washed over her, whispering that some houses are better left undisturbed. Stepping inside, Lena was greeted by a thick silence. Dust motes danced in the slivers of sunlight that pierced through the boarded-up windows. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of decay and something else she couldn't quite place, something akin to damp earth and forgotten memories. It felt like the house itself was holding its breath, watching her every move with unseen eyes. Lena took a deep breath, trying to shake off the ominous feeling. This was her chance to start over, to build a life she could be proud of. She wouldn't let a little creepiness scare her away. She had purchased the house for a steal, an absolute bargain. The real estate agent had said the previous owners had left in a hurry, hence the low price. Now, as Lena looked around at the dusty furniture and cobweb-draped chandeliers, she couldn't help but wonder what exactly had scared them off. Nightfall brought an unsettling chill to the air. Lena, wrapped in a thick blanket, curled up on the living room floor. Furniture, still wrapped in protective plastic, cast eerie shadows in the flickering candlelight. She had yet to restore electricity to the old house. The silence was almost unbearable, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards beneath her. Each tiny sound sent a jolt of fear through her. Lena strained to hear over the frantic thumping of her own heart. Was it just the house settling? Or was it something else? Something lurking in the shadows, moving just beyond the reach of her candlelight. Just as Lena was about to convince herself it was just her nerves, a distinct thump echoed from upstairs. It was followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow and heavy, pacing across the floorboards above her head. Lena froze, her breath catching in her throat. She was sure she had been the only one home, hadn't she? The footsteps continued for what felt like an eternity, each step sending shivers down Lena's spine. Then, as abruptly as they had started, they stopped. Silence descended once more, heavier and more oppressive than before. Lena lay awake for hours, fear a cold knot in her stomach, listening to the silence and dreading the moment it would be broken again. The following night, sleep evaded Lena entirely. The memory of the footsteps, the undeniable feeling of being watched, kept her tethered to wakefulness. Just as dawn was beginning to paint the sky with hues of grey and purple, a new sound reached her ears. It was a soft scratching coming from behind the wall at the head of her makeshift bed. At first, Lena dismissed it as a mouse. The house was ancient, after all. But as the scratching continued, growing louder and more insistent, doubt began to creep into her mind. It sounded too heavy to be a small rodent. It sounded almost like claws. Heart-pounding, Lena cautiously approached the wall. The scratching stopped the moment she moved. Silence. She pressed her ear against the cold plaster, holding her breath. For a moment there was nothing but the frantic thumping of her own heart. Then she heard it again, a low growl, deep and guttural, vibrating through the wall and into her very bones. Terror, cold and sharp, shot through Lena. This was no mouse. Whatever was trapped behind the wall was something far more sinister, something that filled her with primal fear. She stumbled back from the wall, her eyes wide with terror. She had to get out of this house now. The days that followed were a blur of fear and apprehension. Lena tried to convince herself that the noises were just the house settling, the product of an overactive imagination. But deep down she knew better. Every creak of the floorboard, every rustle of leaves outside the windows sent her heart racing. She became acutely aware of the shadows that stretched and danced in the corners of her vision. They seemed to move even when she wasn't looking, twisting and contorting into unsettling shapes. One night, as she sat huddled on the sofa, she could have sworn she saw a figure dart past the doorway. When she went to investigate, heart thudding against her ribs, she found nothing. The hallway was empty, shrouded in an unsettling stillness. But the feeling of being watched persisted, following her like a malevolent shadow. Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone, that something was watching her, toying with her, herding her towards an unknown and terrifying fate. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, Lena began to research the history of the old house. The local library yielded little information, just a few vague mentions of the original owners, a wealthy couple who had mysteriously disappeared decades ago. Legend had it that their spirits still haunted the house, their souls unable to find peace. Lena scoffed at the stories, but a seed of unease had been planted in her mind. She couldn't shake off the feeling that the house held secrets, dark and terrible secrets that it was desperate to keep hidden. One evening, while searching through the attic, Lena stumbled upon a loose floorboard in the corner. Curiosity overcoming her apprehension, she pried it open. Beneath, she discovered a small wooden box, its surface covered in intricate carvings. With trembling hands, Lena lifted the box from its hiding place. It was surprisingly heavy, as if it held something more substantial than just old letters or trinkets. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation as she slowly lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a small leather-bound journal. Its pages were brittle with age, the ink faded but still legible. On the first page, written in a spidery hand, were the words, "This house is cursed. It hungers."